Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're kicking things off with Unit 1, and we're unpacking a framework that dictates literally every single aspect of our modern survival. We're diving into the core concepts of environmental studies. And look, we're not just looking at this as a hard science, but really as this incredibly intricate web that connects ecology, human society, and the global economy. Think about this idea for a second. The human or disciples of nature. For millennia, we didn't just casually live in the environment, we actually learned from it. Now, contrast that with where we are today, the Anthropocene era. We're living in a time where human actions heavily dictate and impact the entire web of life. We've completely shifted from being disciples of nature to becoming the absolute dominant force shaping it. So how did we get here? And, more importantly, how do we actually navigate this modern reality? Okay, let's dive right into this. Here is our roadmap for today. We'll be decoding the environment, looking at the multidisciplinary web, tracking the rise of environmentalism, striving for sustainability, and wrapping up by turning theory into practice. First up, Section 1, Decoding the Environment. Let's get a clear definition of what exactly surrounds us. So, what exactly is your environment? When you hear that word, you probably just picture a dense forest or a flowing river, right? But it's actually so much broader than that. It encapsulates absolutely all biotic, meaning living, and abiotic, non-living, components. And it throws all of these social, economic, and physical factors into the mix to form our reality. It's essentially a massive, dynamic, interacting system that we are firmly, inextricably embedded inside of. Now, what's really interesting here is the stark contrast in how humanity views its surroundings over time. Ancient civilizations embraced the Panchabuddhas. This was a really holistic, sacred balance of air, water, land, sky, and energy. They protected it, and it protected them. But driven by just explosive population growth, our modern view has severely narrowed. We kind of just treat the Earth now as a giant stockpile of exploitable resources, mostly just air, land, and water. And that mindset is the direct catalyst for our current pollution crises and extreme resource depletion. To actually measure this modern impact, science divides our environment into 4 interlocking spheres. We're talking about the atmosphere, the hydrosphere, the lithosphere, and the biosphere. Understanding this is absolutely crucial because every single environmental policy or crisis, for that matter, naturally bleeds across these boundaries. You simply can't pump things into the atmosphere without it eventually altering the biosphere. It's all connected. And because these spheres are so incredibly interconnected, our second section explores a multidisciplinary web. Seriously, environmental science is like a giant puzzle. Because these systems completely bleed together, understanding them is a vastly multidisciplinary effort. Think about it. To map out industrial pollution in a river, sure, you obviously need chemistry and biology. But to understand why a local community relies on that exact polluting industry just to keep jobs, well, now you need sociology and economics. And to actually engineer a long-term fix, you're pulling in philosophy, statistics, engineering, and health sciences. It literally takes the entire spectrum of human knowledge to move the needle on these complex issues. So the crucial point is this. True environmental awareness requires linking ecology, society, and the economy. You absolutely cannot isolate them from each other. The ultimate goal here is to develop what experts call ecological citizenship. That's the profound recognition that you simply cannot sustain a healthy society or govern a viable global economy if you're living on a dying planet. They have to operate as one cohesive unit.
Keeping those linkages in mind, let's jump to Section 3, the rise of environmentalism.
Let's move to the timeline and see how this builds historically. We see a really clear trajectory. We started in antiquity, right? Living as disciples of nature and relative harmony with natural forces. Then, boom, rapid industrialization and massive population growth pushed us into an era of intense, unchecked exploitation, leading to severe depletion. But that actually brings us to the present day, a powerful reactionary rise in rigorous impact analysis, environmental education, and proactive conservation. We are finally recognizing that degradation isn't a one-way street. We can reverse it through organized, educated action. And that realization leads us directly to our fourth section, striving for sustainability. Okay, so what is sustainable development really? It's the equitable use of natural resources to sustain life and govern the economy today, but crucially, without robbing future generations of their ability to do the exact same thing. It is the direct antidote to the exploitation phase of the last century. It's all about meeting human needs while making absolutely sure the planet stays viable in the long run. Achieving this? Well, it's an immense task. It requires promoting vital public awareness because, let's face it, isolated efforts fail. We need massive cooperation. It involves creating really rigorous frameworks to prevent industrial pollution before it even starts, and fiercely protecting our remaining biodiversity. Ultimately, we're trying to equip everyday people with the ethical compass and critical thinking they need to evaluate huge public policies and, frankly, to demand better alternatives from our leaders. But hey, understanding the overarching theory is only half the battle. Let's move to our final section, theory into practice. Because theory is completely useless without execution, right? And this brilliantly illustrates how it actually works. In practice, students start by using worksheets to map out the complex interactions between different environmental components, just to see where these systems overlap. But it very quickly scales up to high-level strategic analysis. We're talking about tracking a specific country's actual progress against global sustainable development goals, using massive data sets, or directly applying rigid sustainability frameworks to real-world corporate supply chains. It's the essential transition from basic awareness to actually holding global economies accountable.
Which brings us to the most critical variable in this entire equation, you. We've mapped out the interlocking spheres of the Earth, all the disciplines required to understand them, and the super urgent need for sustainable development. But the ultimate application is personal. So how are you going to integrate sustainability into your industry, your community, in your everyday life? Are you ready to step up as an informed, ecological citizen in the Anthropocene? Take these frameworks, look closely at the world around you, and ask yourself, what is your role in protecting the web of life that we all share?